Hello and welcome to my knitting podcast. I'm Sarah and I'm recording today from a very overcast Philadelphia, 2 days before the Super Bowl, which everyone is very excited about, sort of including me. It's been a pretty busy 2 weeks since I've last recorded. I've done so much knitting, so I've got tons to show you. I'll tell you quickly about what I'm wearing first because it's not a recent project, but it is a very beloved project. This is my Lakes pullover. The pattern is by Ozetta, and it's a saddle shoulder design. I made this in some farm yarn that I was given by my dad in 2020. He got it from the farmer's market at the bottom of Johnson Terrace in Edinburgh, just behind the castle, and it's beautiful. I ended up knitting this at a 16 stitch gauge, just that was the nicest fabric that I could get out of the yarn, and the pattern I think is for an 18 stitch gauge, so I ended up multiplying every number in the pattern by the ratio of my gauge to the pattern's gauge. It wasn't too complicated in the end. It was a little bit of a trust the process, but it turned out beautifully. It turned out really, really nicely. The yarn is very rustic and it can be quite itchy, so I've been trying to get it out and wear it while it's cold because it's not itchy if it's cold enough to wear, but if it gets a bit warmer then it's like kind of unwearable for me. But it's just so nice. It's got a marl, and it's an interesting marl because I wonder if you'll be able to see. It's 3 colors that are marled together. I think that it's probably 3 natural colors. A gray, a black, it's like a very dark brown, and then there's a medium color in there too. And it's beautiful. I really love this. I ended up playing a bit of yarn chicken with it because I actually had a lot less than I thought that I had. A little slip of paper said that this was a DK weight, but I'm pretty sure that it was not a DK weight, and I didn't check wraps per inch or anything, but it all worked out in the end. It is about high hip length. Maybe if I go behind my chair, you'll be able to see it better. And it's got long sleeves. It's got a really nice it just feels beautiful. I don't know how it has this perfect quality, but I love it. And I don't wear it a huge amount, but I do really like it because I can only wear it in the winter. So that is my Lakes. I think it's Lakes. It's the saddle shoulder pullover by Ozetta. I think I made this in 2023. Maybe in 2022. So I have a finished object to show you. It is my pair of Riverbed socks by Locatelli. Grab them. In my last video, I was worried that I was going to run out of yarn for these. I was wrong. I had loads of yarn. I had ended up extending the leg for this pattern, so I was worried that I wouldn't have enough because the yarn that I was using, which is Whistlebear sock yarn, is not fingering weight. It's like a sport. It's a very interesting yarn, sort of a sport weight, 80% mohair, 20% cheviot, but it's really tightly spun. So the yarn really wants to be straight, and it doesn't bend easily. Supposedly, using the high mohair content and the tight twist prevents bacteria from getting in because mohair is a straighter fiber, and the straighter that the fiber is, the fewer sort of gaps under the plates that bacteria can get into, I think. And I guess the twist also contributes to that, plus the strength of the yarn. But it makes for quite a challenging yarn to work with. So it took a little bit of effort, but it is very beautiful. I don't remember what color this is, but there's only a few colors of it. So I think if you are very keen on the yarn, it should be quite easy to find which one it was. I ended up using about 65 grams for the pair of the yarn, which was more than enough. So I can't actually tell the difference between the two socks, but the first one, see, it has this, let me just go back. The pattern is from Liona magazine, 52 Weeks of Socks. I looked for it because I was looking for a sock pattern that could be knit on slightly thicker yarn. And it has this cable motif down the front, although it's not a true cable, it's actually like a ribbed lace pattern that looks like a cable. It's got a heel flap and gusset. There's a cable on the back until the heel as well. And then the rest of it is in reverse stockinette. So that's the basic information I need to make sure to say. In the pattern, it only calls for about this much leg, but I think I spoke about this in my last video. When I was knitting the first one, I was just having such a nice time. I just kept going on the leg. I didn't feel like switching over to doing a different thing, and I was in a rhythm and I was with people, so I just kept going. So I needed to replicate that on the second side. I found the reverse stockinette to be a little bit tiresome to knit on DPNs for the first sock, and I was getting quite bad laddering as well. So for the second sock, I just reversed my sock, and I knit it inside out, and I looked at the chart and I re-engineered it so I could knit the whole sock inside out. And have it still look the same. I actually can't tell which one I knit inside out and which one I knit right side round, which maybe is an indication that my laddering wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But the second sock was much more enjoyable to knit. It was much easier on my hands, and it was fun to figure out. So here are my two socks. I haven't worn them yet. I'm going to start wearing them now that I've shown you. I love the color. I do have quite a lot of leftover of this yarn. I think I have more than one pair of socks worth after having knit 3 pairs of socks from 3 skeins of it. So I got about just under one sock's worth of yarn left over from each skein. So I could either make a really big pair of socks or maybe some like mittens or something. The other colors are white and gray. And I really like these. I love the 52 Weeks of Socks book. And this pattern was very clear. So if you're considering it, I would recommend it. And that's my first pair of socks for the year. The next project that has been monopolizing a lot of my attention has been my cabled Hanukkah jumper. This has been a project that's been in my mind for a long time. If you're a returning viewer, you'll recognize it. Last year, like Hanukkah 2023, my boyfriend gave me 8 different colors of Jamieson & Smith yarn to make this cabled pullover with. I had picked about 25, and then I gave him the computer and he narrowed it down and then gave them to me in an order, and it was really nice. So this has been on my mind for a really long time. I guess about a year and a half, because I'd been thinking about it before then. I've been wanting to do a color blocked, very bright cabled jumper. So I started it in the summer. I'll just breeze through this because I don't want to bore people. if you already know about it. I started in the summer and I made the sleeves. I'm using, it's a pattern by Gayle Bunn, and it's free on Ravelry. I'm combining it with one of the patterns from the Moon and Turtle book. I don't remember exact, the Kinsan one for the raglan shaping. So this sleeve, I've done all of it up to the neckline. And then this sleeve, I have only done part of that. So I still have all of the decreases to go on this sleeve. And then in December, I made a start on the body. I laid out all the yarn I had left. I had to buy a couple extras because it was using up quite a lot more yarn than I thought it would. So I purchased some extra colors that I thought would go, and I cast on the front and the back. I laid all my balls of yarn out and decided on an order. I haven't decided which will be the front and which will be the back yet. So I started with this one, this red, and I knit the ribbing at the bottom of the body. I've ended up changing the charts quite a bit. So if you want to hear more about that, you can watch my last episode. I think I talked about it. And I wanted to do both the front and the back simultaneously because I didn't trust that I would remember what I did, and I've been changing the pattern quite a lot. So not like on the same needle, but I have been doing it sort of, I'll do one step on the front and one step on the back. So I started on the front, I knit up all of my red, and then I started on the back or the front. And this past 2 weeks, I have done almost all of this pink section. It's sort of bunched up on my needle, but you can see that yeah, I've put a lot of time and energy into this, and it has come quite a long way. Each row takes a long time. I'll measure it so I can tell you how long it is. It's about 15 inches now under the arm. I think that this is going to end up being quite wide. Like, I think I'm going to have a lot of positive ease. So I am not totally sure how long I want the body to be. I definitely don't want it to be cropped, but I don't want it to be too long. But I think I want it to be sort of hip length, like past sort of halfway down my butt. I'm feeling a little bit scatterbrained right now. I hope that's not coming through. But if it is, I'm sorry. Please bear with me. I'm thinking ideally I want it to be 17 or 18 inches from the underarm for the length of the body. But now that I've been doing it in like color block sections, so now that I've done this pink, I'm moving back over to the other side, and I will do the second color on this side, which is going to be this orangey peach. So that's what's next. This has been going quite slowly. I feel like I've just spent so much time working on this, which I guess is fair because it is much larger than the jumpers I normally make. And it's very intense because it's cabled all over. So that makes sense that it feels like a big time investment because it's a much larger and more detailed project than I have made regularly. I'm a bit worried it's going to be too big, which would be a double burn because, you know, if it's so intensive to make, you don't want to make it too big because then you've wasted time making it, doing the very complicated thing more than you need to. I am enjoying knitting it, but starting to feel a little bit tired of it, I guess. Switching to a new color tends to help me, and so I'm just about to switch to a new color now, so hopefully that will be good. And so I think that I will do about 3 blocks of colors on the body, and then when I get to the underarm, I'm not sure how I'll space it out. And I'm not sure what color I'm going to do the collar yet. But I also think since it's pieced and bottom up and I did the sleeves first, I front loaded a lot of the work. So by the time I get to the separation, or I guess the cast off for the underarms, I'm gonna be almost done in a way, because all I'll have to do is the little triangles for the chest. I'm just trying to talk myself into it not being so much longer, so much more work. But yeah, so this has been getting a lot of work from me. I've been enjoying it to a point, and it is coming along. I think it'll be really cool. Like one of those things that I feel is maybe one of my best things that I've made. But for now, it's chugging along. So that is my Hanukkah jumper. The next thing I have to show you has been a jumper that was finished last year that I have now put a lot of effort into fixing. So this was the Lumu cardigan by Gudrun Johnson. It was a test knit that I was in, and it was sort of a test knit fail. And by sort of, I mean it was a test knit fail. I love Gudrun Johnson's designs. I think that she's a wonderful, talented designer. But I just think that this one kind of missed the mark. It didn't fit. I'll pop a picture of what it looked like on. It had this big bunch in the back of the neck. And was pretty much, I mean, it wasn't unwearable, but I wouldn't wear it because I have nice jumpers that I've made that don't have big, obvious issues with them. So after I recorded my Everything I Made in 2024 video, I felt quite inspired to go back, return to this project, rip out the part that didn't work, and give it another shot. And so I ended up ripping it down, ripping the button band out, which was sad because that was the best part of the original design, and ripping it down to like 2 rows after I joined the arms and the body. And then I used Ailbiona Mclochlainn's TULC cardigan to knit up the rest of it, which I did. I think that when I had recorded last time, I had just finished that process. I needed to re-engineer that pattern to be bottom up instead of top down, which was a little tricky, but also like this modification, it was very fun. And so my work of the past 2 weeks has been knitting the collar, the button band, and lengthening the sleeves. The Lumu pattern, I think, had a lower or a longer armhole depth. So when I replaced that with the TULC armhole depth, the sleeves shrank up and they became too short. I've done one of the sleeves and I have the other one still to do, but I'm also just like really tired of knitting on this. So I'll hold it up for you. There are some things that I have done that are not perfect, and in this very moment, I do not have the energy, the spirit to go back and do it again. Really what I'm talking about is that the button bands are a little bit scrunchy. If you can see, I'll put it on in a second, but first I want to show you the collar. I added some short rows to the collar because when I tried it on, I thought that it was just a bit too low on the sides. In retrospect, I think maybe it was fine. The collar looks okay, but I actually, when I'm wearing it and I'm looking at it, it doesn't look like the short rows are needed. I think it's actually just normal to not have your cardigan collar come that high up your neck, and I just wanted it to for some reason. But I won't make any decisions now. What I'm going to do is, once I finish the second sleeve, which I have just unpicked, I'll block it, and then I will see if I still want to rip out the collar and redo it. I think I would be able to do it without having to rip out the button bands, but if I can't, then I give up for a while. I'm gonna try this on and show you now. Being careful not to unravel my sleeve. It's not really the sort of thing that unravels, so, you know, I don't have to worry too much about it. Okay, so here is the jumper. I'll stand up so you can see. Maybe I'll go back here again. So, yes, you can see it here. It's got this gorgeous design from the TULC here. And also on the back, this detail, the line on the back, is from the Lumu. And I didn't end up needing to change the length of the body. I thought that the body length was fine. I actually really like it with these pink trousers. That's really good color combo. So I picked up stitches for the neckline. I knit the neckline. I added in a bunch of short rows that you can see are making the collar quite high in the neck at the back. It does stick up a little bit from the front. I don't know if that bothers me or not. I'm definitely not going to do anything until I block it and see how it ends up, because it might be that it just relaxes a bit more. And then, yeah, the sleeve, this is my finished sleeve. It's a great length. This is the sleeve that I'm redoing. What else to say about this? It's knit using Jamieson and Smith, same as my cable knit jumper, and Rowan felted tweed. No, Rowan Kid Silk Haze, both in this like royal purple color, which is a color that I like a lot. 4mm needles. I think that the original design, I've been thinking about this, I think it would work if you were using a really drapey yarn, like an alpaca silk. I think that it would be completely fine. But this is the yarn recommended by the pattern, so it should have worked with this yarn. And I also think you have a better chance of that one working if you have a lot of positive ease. But I had the recommended amount of positive ease, so, you know. But if you really like that design, I think that you could make it work if you knit it in a drapey yarn with some positive ease. The TULC pattern was very well written, easy to follow. I really like the style, the shoulder style. I think that it suits just being this sort of small, kind of tailored looking cardigan. And I think it'll be good. I'm considering taking my mohair brush to this to make it even fuzzier. I was thinking of only doing it for these front panels, but it's the sort of thing where if you do it, you can't go back. So I haven't decided. Again, I'll wait till it's blocked and finished. I think if I'm unhappy with it, I'll definitely take the mohair brush to it because it'll just hide whatever I want it to hide with all of the fuzz. Yes, so this project is receiving a redemption from me, and I've put a lot of time into it. I've really been knitting a lot over the past 2 weeks. And I think it's going to be good. So I really want to make the TULC cardigan just as it is, because I've been enjoying, I just like this one. I think it looks nice. So it has a little bit of it's not a saddle shoulder, it's a little bit of a contiguous inspired, saddle shoulder inspired look, which was why I chose it to honor the original design intention. So hopefully next time this will be done and I will be wearing it, or I'll have just put it away because I'll have looked at it for so much time that I'm sick of looking at it. But I think it's gonna be good. So I've been wanting to make sure that I spend more time really, staying with the things I've made to get them perfect. And it's an interesting project doing that. It's very different from knitting something like just from scratch, because you have to figure out what you've got going on and learn different ways of how to change the resources that are available in order for them to be useful for you to finish the project. So reverse engineering the pattern and then like actually putting the time in to do stuff like lengthening the sleeves. I was worried it would be too small, but it's actually fine. And button bands that are a little bit on the thicker side, and the stockinette curl was also making it seem quite small. So I think that the fit is actually perfect. The next work in progress, I'm not going to spend too long talking to you about because it's not very interesting, but it is this hat. It's a 1x1 ribbed fingering weight hat. It's on 2.25 millimeter needles. I started this in the summer, and then I set it aside because it's extremely boring. But I have been wanting to use these needles for something else, so I decided that I would give myself a weekly row goal for the hat. And I set myself the challenge of doing 20 rows a week until it's done. So I've done 15 so far this week, which is from this stitch marker. So that's still a good couple weeks before it's finished, but eventually it will get finished. I've been keeping this in the kitchen, and when I've been cooking and someone has to stay, with the stove, can't just leave the stove top on, I've been knitting on this. And it's been nice to have a small portable project there. The yarn is from Hedgehog Fiber, and I think it's called Method, and it's their sock yarn. I have bought some yarn in the past 2 weeks, so I'll show you that now. The first sort of set of yarns that I want to show you are all Patton's Kroy sock yarns. I got them from Yarnforia, maybe? It's a larger yarn company. I actually bought this exact order of yarn in December, and it just never arrived. So I emailed them, I think, halfway through January and asked about it, and they said that it looked like it had gotten lost in the post. And they refunded me, except they didn't refund the shipping, which was $10. But then they said that if I made another order, I could email them and they would refund the shipping on that order. So I did make another order, and it took about 3 weeks to get to me. And I never emailed them to refund me the shipping because, I don't know, I just haven't done it yet. I should. Maybe I'll do that today. So this is related to a project that I've been wanting to make for a while. I have made 2 pairs of socks from Patton's Kroy sock yarns. It's maybe my favorite sock yarn. I really like how it's a bit thicker than a normal sock yarn. My pair has worn so well. It was the very first pair of socks I ever made, and they look like they've never been worn, and I wear them quite a lot. So the pattern that I used the first time I made these, I don't remember what it's called, but it was by Talenta Winters, and I would highly recommend it if you've never made a pair of socks, or if you want to learn more about sock making. I think it was free when I got it, and it might still be free, but it was really, really great. She sort of walks you through like all the different steps and how to measure your foot, and then recommends different rib patterns for the sock. So it was great. I have been wanting to make a pair of socks for my dad's friend, John. He's just so nice. I talked about him a little bit in my Everything I Made in 2024 video. At the end, when I talked about my knitting plans, I said that I wanted to make him a pair of socks. So this is the yarn that I bought with the intention of making John a pair of socks. I bought 6 balls of yarn. Each 50-gram ball can make 1 long sock. So this is enough for 3 pairs of socks. Some of these are not the colors that I thought that they were going to be. I thought that this was going to be brown, like a brown and kind of dark pink, but it's actually gray and pastel pink. So I don't think I would make these for John because I don't think these are colors that he likes. But the other two I think would both be, either of these would be good. They've got this greeny one. They're actually the FX Croy socks. And then I've got this blue one. They're all really nice. It's a 75% wool, 25% nylon. And it is 152 meters per 50 grams, which I think is a sport weight, roughly. These were about $6 a ball. I think it was on sale. And yeah, I'm very happy to have these because this is a great yarn to make present socks because people can just put them in the washing machine, and also it just wears so well. Plus it's a little thicker than a regular sock yarn, so hopefully it'll knit up a bit quicker. And yes, I'm excited about this. I'm one step closer to achieving my goal that I set at the start of the year. Just while I'm pulling out my next acquisition from my messy yarn cart, I'm seeing my Stamford sweater swatch, and I'd like to report to you that I finished weaving in all of the ends. It took a long time, but I did it. So that's another thing I've been working on this past 2 weeks. The ends for the Stamford sweater. This past week, I went to Minnesota, to St. Paul, to visit my really good friend from my master's course, Bailey, and her roommate, who is now also a good friend, Brick. And while I was there, we did a lot of fun stuff, watched a lot of films. We went to the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which was really cool. And one day, we went to Stillwater, which is a town that's really cute, and they've got this amazing yarn shop called Darn Knit with a K anyways, and they just let me loose in the yarn shop. I think they regretted it because we were there for kind of a long time, but they had Jamieson and Smith. I've talked about this yarn a little bit too much in this podcast, I think. I maybe just, I just really like it, and I've been knitting with it a lot over the past year or so. But it's always exciting to see it in person. They didn't have the full range, I don't think, because there were some colors that were missing. But it's always just cool to see this colorwork yarn in person. It's so difficult to know what the yarns will look like when you're ordering them online, especially when you're paying attention to how they'll look together. It's really nice to be there and put them next to each other. So they had a sample of the Buness hat by Mary J. Mclochlainn, I think. I will pop a picture of it on the screen. And we all just loved it. We all just thought it was gorgeous. I think it has 6 colors and it's sort of a beret. But I think in the pattern you can make a normal shaped hat as well. And I just loved it. And Brooke and Bailey also really liked it. And so I bought some yarn to make it, with the thought that maybe I would also make a hat for each of them. Perhaps. I don't think that I would use... I think I want to add some extra yarns to this collection of colors to make the hats. But this was... I'll walk you through my thought process. So I started out with this. It's the Supreme yarn, which I think is just the same as their regular jumper weight yarn, but in a natural color, and they sell them in 50-gram balls instead of 25-gram balls. I will also say that at this yarn shop, it was $6 per ball of these regular ones, and that is the cheapest I have seen in America in all my time being here. So I think they have an online shop. I'm not sure if it's the same price as the online shop as is in person, but if you're near there and you want this sort of yarn, that's a really good price for it. This was $14, which seems like too much because it's just 2 of the other ones put together. So shouldn't it be 12? Anyway, I thought that this was a really nice light neutral color. I'd probably use this in place of a white in a pattern because sometimes white can be just too stark. So I wanted to get a bigger ball of this to go in the pattern, and I made the decisions about the other yarns basing it around wanting to have gradients of different colors. So I started out with the greens because that is what I was drawn to. I saw this gorgeous color. I wonder if it will pick up on the camera as well as it does in real life. It's this really dark forest green, but it's dark, but it's just got so much vibrancy to it. They also had a different sample where this was used in the brim, and it's just so beautiful. So I had to get one. It's the color 82 dark green. So that's my first green. And then I got these two. This one I thought was nice because it was in this very much in the same vein as this one. This is dark teal 141. And then I got this beautiful vibrant green, which is, I think it's bright green, but it's cut off, FC11. So that's these three. Stick them on my fingers. And I thought that, you know, would be a really nice gradient for a pattern. This isn't really part of the gradient, but I thought that they were nice together. So that was gradient number 1. I'll put it behind me. Not sure if that's in view, but it will do. Okay, this was the second gradient. I was very much feeling plum and orange. I don't know why, but in my perusing of the shelves, I put together this gradient of 4. We've got FC55 purple, which is a really pretty dyed-in-the-wool purple. We've got this like ember color, FC38 orange, which is also dyed in the wool. And then we've got this one, which is bright something. It's cut off 1285. And then this like peachy color, which I thought was a really nice complement to it, which is called peach, and it's 53. The Buness hat, I might be saying that wrong, has an alternating background color, and the one in the shop, which was really beautiful, had 2 quite similar colors in the background, but just slightly tonally different. It was like a greeny blue and then a bluey blue, and they didn't have enough dark colors that were close enough together for me to replicate that in any different colorway, but that is sort of what I want to do in my versions because I really liked it. So that's the next 4. And then I also got these 2 blue colors. This bright blue and then this light blue. The bright blue is 132B, doesn't say what color name. And then this one says light blue color 14. So I thought these would be really nice accent colors. And here's all of them together. Oh, I guess that maybe this could be a gradient instead of that green one. So I just had a really fun time in there. They had a lot of good stuff. I got to touch some of the La Bien-Aimée because they carried a couple different lines of theirs. I didn't want to buy a sweater quantity, and I didn't really want to buy a single skein because I have a lot of sock yarn and single skeins of superwash merino, so I was really mostly just interested in the color work jumper weight yarn, and they didn't really have any non-superwash comparable yarns to mix with these. Sometimes I would go for like a Biche Bouche Petite Lamb's Wool style, you know, just like a non-superwash woolen spun yarn of a similar weight. But they had a lot of really good stuff to look at, and they were very nice. So if you're near there, it was really good. I'm jealous. And I think that they have a website too. That was what I bought. I'm worried this video is getting a bit long. So that's everything that I have to show you today. It's been a lot of knitting. It's been a pretty mixed bag 2 weeks. Some really great times, like visiting my friends and, you know, still applying for jobs. I got to a second round interview last week and then didn't get the job. So that was quite disappointing, but I'm still just applying and trying to not get too down about it. For the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna keep working on this cabled fisherman jumper, work a little bit on that ribbed hat just when I find time for it. I want to finish the sleeve of my purple cardigan, and maybe I'll cast on one of the Fair Isle hats. I've been really wanting to dip my toe back into the Fair Isle garment arena, but I've been feeling kind of intimidated by color choice. I really love choosing colors, but I don't know why. It just feels like something's holding me back from doing it, so I think a smaller project is a good way to go. And that's pretty much everything I have to show you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well and that your knitting is going well. And if you leave me a comment, I will read it and reply to it. And yeah, see you next time. Bye.